Hi everyone. My name is Chimira, and the title of my proposed monument is "All God's Children Got Wings: Rhythm to Push Away the Blues." Um, I'm gonna start off with a bit of an idea behind the monument, which was to have a series of moving images. This was the only image that I gave for the proposal, and yeah, it was a series of moving images that aim to transcend the materiality of my conditions. For my sisters that know, I was trying to think of what it means to transcend the weight of the supremacy. Um, this image is of a woman that I took in one of the metro lines in Amsterdam looking onwards. And I kind of I transposed her into a different scene with the eastern Nigerian sun. I'm from Nigeria, and some pink pouring flowers. I was thinking of longing, a love of beauty, and a need for otherwise. I was hoping that the images would move and fade and blur into each other alongside a series of other photos that I'll show on in the slides. Um, Revisiting this proposal now, I kind of find myself at a point of actualization or becoming. And I guess I'll explain this in context with my choice of the location for the proposed monument. So yeah, I chose the BIMS, Southeast Amsterdam, as the site of this monument because, well, it was the first place I moved to when I first came to Amsterdam. And I remember going straight from the airport to the Belmer, where my student housing was located. And I kind of had no expectation for, I guess, just based off of Europe and the standard of Black social life and the fact that my time in Europe has been one of deep isolation within my own Blackness. So coming to this place, I was very, very excited because I suddenly saw a Black bookstore. I saw Black exhibition spaces. I was seeing Rastas. I was hearing Burna Boy playing down the streets. And I was like, wow, like this was meant to be. Like I found home. And this was the summer of 2019, so just before COVID. And yeah, I don't know, but my dreams of collectivity and togetherness kind of became way more complex than what I could even imagine. Um, Me and my sisters came to find that visibility did not mean a thing. Sometimes visibility means silence, sometimes it means labor, sometimes it means spectacle, it means police. Sometimes it's just a reminder that you're very far away from home, very far away from home. After my arrival, I quite soon came to understand how this very space figured itself to white imaginations. The Belmer, being a predominantly migrant and non-white area, comes to signify a doubly othered location. It is a Black geography of potentiality beyond the oppressive configurations of this white city, and simultaneously a ghetto, an area of high policing, surveillance, and opportunity for the white supremacist violence of gentrification. There's significant Black-owned spaces within the Belmer that I was very happy to experience, like a Nigerian restaurant that's close to Billowike, but it will be shutting down. For the past 2 to 3 years now, they've been receiving notice of eviction because they will be demolishing the area where the restaurant is actually located, a process of just gentrification. It's funny because there's a Hesterfeld community, which is the art studios and all, but at the same time, like artists and students within these areas are typically signals of gentrification. They bring international students into places way more affordable, but less unknowing of like the actual context of the area. And they come in and it's sort of like a stepping stone towards other types of peoples within the area. So this restaurant, for example, is gonna be gone soon. They're gonna expand it with more studios, which I mean, good for artists, but another restaurant that I happened to find, another bar space, Nigerian owned as well, Black owned, they're gonna be leaving soon. The place is gonna be shut down in a couple months. My first exhibition was at the Belmer, and that same exhibition night, there was police just circling around the area, and I felt so mad, but I knew why. In my experiences of Black gathering and visibility, I found our presence to be very offensive within this city. And I kind of was wondering to myself, what are then the possibilities in this space of enclosure configured by white supremacist logic? The fact that this is a very Black area, but somehow within our visibility, it's just opportunities for even more surveillance, even more gentrification, despite the fact that, yeah, when I first moved there, I tell people at the University of Amsterdam, I lived in the Belmer, and people would ask me, are you safe? Are you okay? And it took a student telling me, you actually live in the ghetto. And I was like, what? This was a place that I was thinking, wow, like, I'm lucky to be in this very Black majority area, just to come to find it's a place of unsafety. But in the same breath, due to gentrification, it's turned to a very urban space. So even within the ghettoification of the area, there's a rebrand. As I said, with the Hasterfeld community, like artists, students, urban. So in regards to this monument and what I proposed, I was thinking, how do I mechanize my space into something else? What strategies of freedom are possible within the material conditions holding my current existence? What is my intuition telling me? I kind of use this notion of the intuition as something very tied to the erotic. That's by Audre Lorde, who talks about our deepest capacities for joy and feeling, and this whole notion of emotion as a source of knowledge production. And in listening to my own erotic and listening to my own capacities for joy, I was thinking of refuge as a possibility within my own body. This is something I also relate to the concept of Black geographies, a notion informed by Catherine Metrinick and Beatriz Nascimento, who pretty much state that there's routes and possibilities within our own bodies. In essence, that our own we are not confined to our physical geography. We're bigger than life. We hold possibilities beyond the confines, I guess, of traditional notions of materiality in regards to our physical environment. So I pretty much found my own strategies for otherwise as a thing invested in the love of beauty. I want to quote Saidiya Hartman from her book, Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments, because I was also commissioned by the Black Archives to write an essay based off of my experience in Southeast Amsterdam. It was my own proposal as well. I was pretty much responding to Saidiya Hartman's book because within this book, she talks about the configurations of the ghetto in regards to Black femme practices of waywardness and freedom. For Saidiya Hartman, she pretty much declares wayward life or just the ordinary existence of a Black girl as like revolutionary, which to me was just incredible to read. So yeah, I was writing an essay that was pretty much responding to this because within this book I found myself and I was wondering, how am I relating to 18th century Black women migrating from southern United States to northern America, northern United States with post-slavery time? Like, how am I relating to them, like in regards to this place that's like all the way in Amsterdam that isn't even necessarily a ghetto, or like rather the configurations of the ghetto is way different from like what Saidiya Hartman was writing about, but yet I still find myself within this book. I'll read the quote first, yeah. So the Black ordinary, the beauty that resides in and animates the determination to live free, the beauty that propels the experiments in living otherwise, and it encompasses the extraordinary and the mundane, arts and everyday use. Beauty is not a luxury, Rather, it is a way of creating possibility in the space of enclosure, a radical art of substance, an embrace of our terribleness, a transfiguration of the given. It is a will to adorn, a proclivity for the Baroque, and a love of too much. I found possibility in a reclamation of the beauty of my very ordinary. I especially found this within the essay that I was writing, and I put a fragment of the essay here because I feel like it really is in relation to what I ended up proposing in regards to this monument. What I thought would be an essay around the margins, my geopositionality here in Amsterdam, came to transcend traditional geography. I felt an oppression in having to write about how or why Southeast Amsterdam is not a ghetto. I felt an oppression in having to write about the traumas I have encountered in European urban life as a young Black woman. I did not want to write about how my story aligned with the given. I was and have been interested in the beyond, the otherwise worlds we carry despite the given, respite the unlivable conditions of this world. Within this world I present, guided by text shaped by rhythm and blues, my body becomes a space through which I navigate otherwise worlds through the very potentiality of both memory and feelings. I use these forms of the erotic to transcend the form and oppression of adaptability tied to traditional geographic notions of materiality. I cannot walk through the histories of my life for you, but I can retrieve what I need to choreograph and improvise the language we need to not just enact freedom, but to understand that we've long been enacting it. I see me, I hear me. Within this world, I present a collage of moving response that shifts within the sonic scape of rhythm and blues. The essay kind of became a poetic musing of my own survival and the beyond of that survival. I wasn't, as I said, interested in why or how the Bilmer might not or is a ghetto, but more so how I've been living beyond. And I guess just the potentiality and possibilities of my own freedom and how I feel like that freedom is just now. Like freedom is not a thing I'm moving towards, but a thing I'm acting within. It's a choreography, it's a practice. Even with the proposal of the monuments coming from a place of longing, of need, of wanting collectivity, even though, I don't know, that collectivity to do with the Belmer felt so fictional. Because yes, as I saw Black people around me, there was no connection. There was no community the way I thought I'd expect it to be. Which I feel like is the dilemma of our own hypervisibility within the area. The fact that our own geography is something that is configured by such a Western imagination. The fact that sites of gatherings are things that are heavily policed, things that are not as easy as we think they could be. Memory and feelings. My space of becoming is a practice and negotiation of heavy movement. In dreaming up a monument, thinking about ways to mechanize our longings away from into becoming. I was thinking about economies of visibility and non-visibility, dilemmas of spectatorship and surveillance, deeper longings, dreams and rememory, what it means to even fake the collective, Black moaning in the sound of the photograph, revolutionary choreographies, aka rhythm to push away the blues. So yeah, in relation to this whole thing of movement and action, I was thinking of, I kind of just formed, well, this is what I like handed in with the proposal for my idea of the monument. And yeah, so the idea of this monument is to sink to the otherwise worlds that exist and transcend spatiality. Figures blend and disappear into new worlds, transforming and merging into a beyond that evades ghettoification, gentrification, and surveillance. ideas of placelessness and hypervisibility are made sources of potential. The movement between images, the fading of subject and ground, is one that also evades the capture of spectacle, embraces erasure as a potential route of escape. The wave of imagery acts as a form of Black geography through which imagined worlds of freedom are actualized and heard in chorus. So this whole thing of like movements and motion is something that I really gained from the writer, first president of Senegal, poet, founder of the Negritude movement, Leopold Senghor. He talks about the African mask and how its original purpose, because this whole thing is like in relation to spectacle and spectation and arts and art practices and even just what Black art is. And in relation to the African mask, he talks about the need for the whole purpose of the African mask was to dance behind it. So you must dance behind the mask first before you can even see God. So he talks about a choreography, a whole movement that enacts the worlds behind the mask. And I don't know, this notion of a choreography and movement is something that I really started to adapt in regards to my own practices of freedom, or even my own practices of arts and expressions of arts, because, yeah, I don't know, like, I guess, like, I started thinking, how do I make the worlds move? Like, how can I form something that asks us to actually dance? How can I reach into those deeper feelings of longing away from or belonging? And I kind of then adapted this to what I gained from Saidiya Hartman, who was talking about this excess need of beauty and how beauty is not a luxury, and if anything, beauty is a possibility. Like, the love of beauty for Black women is an entry, it's a portal into otherwise worlds. It's revolutionary within itself. And I created a series of images that pretty much is just very much tied to the Black ordinary. There's nothing spectacular about the images I tend to collect, but aside from they're just beautiful, like in its ordinary sense. And I kind of then transpose them and move them and merge them into different things that, I don't know, back to like, that come from my own erotic, that come from my own need, that come from my own longing for otherwise. The images are like dreams and memory, and even just having like the initial image that I showed, this woman transposed into a Nigerian eastern sunset. She's in an otherwise world, because at the same time she's not really there. It's still her in an Amsterdam metro. And then I started thinking, aside from the motion within the image, what is the synergy between one as a spectator? Because I imagined the images to be flickering and fading and moving, I don't know, somewhere high up. Like, I didn't want it to be on a ground field or anything, but I wanted it to be in a higher position where I guess the spectator or this passerby could just, because the Belmer as well is the Belmer station is a very transitory area. So I was imagining within movement what it means to just look up and see flickering images. And I started to think to myself, yes, what's the action within this movement? What does it mean for someone, the spectator? What does it mean for the spectator, especially since even in just, I keep talking about evading spectatorship, evading capture, evading, like, I guess even in relation to the Belmer being a place of hypervisibility, yeah, within that hypervisibility is just, it's our non-visibility, because as Black people there, like, we're seeing each other, but at the same time we're still not relating to each other, because yes, moments of our gathering is something that's then heavily policed. I was like, where's the dance? How can I activate the God behind the mask? And then I was thinking that if you're someone that's really longing to dream, and if you're looking and you're really craning your neck to these worlds, there's a resonance. You're a sister looking for other sisters. This is something very much tied to a practice of hope, which to me is a very cruel thing because it's tied to things unseen, the unimaginable and the unintelligible. The monument to me is sort of a catapult towards beyond, where movement functions at all levels. The passerby, the images, the synergy in between. Um, I like to imagine this my sisters feeling it, feeling the longing, feeling the emotion. Um, I definitely feel like I'm at a place of becoming and surrender. The practice of choosing my own ensemble, a jazz towards otherwise, is the logic of my own rhythm. The radicality of what it means to fake a collective, because I feel like this monument in itself, or the proposal of it, is something that seeks to fake a sort of collectivity. Um, I don't know, this whole thing of that, like, that should you recognize my longing for otherwise, you will be able to nod and smile, perhaps sing through your expression that we are going somewhere deep within our inside. And I feel like this enables a sort of transcendence. And I think this transcendence comes from our knowing. So knowing that there is a love of beauty and there's an ability for you to see me in you or you in me. My refuge is a space of longing and therefore becoming. The morning turns to moaning sounds that encompass the impossibility of language, sounds that determine and otherwise from deep, deep in our insides, sounds that seek God. I think that God is our rhythm, our revolutionary rhythm, wayward improv and choreographies of life. And this is another image that I was hoping to move within the rest of the images. Um, it comes with a poem. Moving fast, 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 moving fast. I pray to move past Western blues, Eastern greens, Umwala. I hope to move into you. On a final note, I want to also reference Fred Moulton, who talks about black moaning in The Sound of the Photograph. And he pretty much talks about Emmett Till and how Emmett Till was this 14-year-old boy in Mississippi that was lynched for allegedly whistling at a white woman. And his mother decided to hold an open casket because he was mutilated. And in the decision to hold an open casket, his funeral was heavily photographed, and it was actually shown across every major newspaper across the United States. He talks about how the decision to show the photographing of this body was not an action of depicting the spectacle, but more so a need to hear the moan within the photograph. So what that photograph did was it catapulted the civil rights movement. And he says that that image was seen, shown, shunned, black moaning. You could hear the mother within the photo. And I think it's that sonic essence that I also am very much invested in. I'm wondering what it means to hear, I guess, the love of beauty in my case, the need for otherwise, a need for a beyond, the fact that I'm in this very, very black place that's somehow a ghetto, but at the same time, nothing at all. That I can only hope that my own sisters can look and hear and see me and know that there is something else out there for us. And I think that something else is within us. And maybe we can transcend through our very own selves. I think that's my own freedom. Thank you.